August 10th, 2022 to order. Please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchuk. Alderman Bushy.
Here.
Alderman Meyer.
Here.
Alderman Hancher.
Here.
Alderman Carroll.
Here.
Alderman Parrish.
Here.
Alderman Schneider.
Here.
Mayor Nurbit.
Here. First up, we have approval of the minutes from July 12th.
Move approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Are there any comments, corrections, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First up, discussion item, the City of Mequon compensation study for non-represented positions. Assistant Administrator Scheineman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. I thought I'd kick off with a quick overview of the comp study and the timeline we're looking at to give the Common Council or the Committee of the Whole an update of the process we made so far and where we're going next. So just a quick recap, the comp study is a project to help us review both our compensation from both an internal equity standpoint and external competitiveness standpoint to ensure we're paying reasonable wages to staff. Additionally, the process will look at providing recommendations on how the city can update its current compensation plan and provide an alternative methodology for advancing employees through their respective pay grades. And the process we've gone through so far to achieve that is award a contract to GovHR in June. In July, the project really got underway. Staff did a data dump to GovHR and held some kickoff meetings internally. And now here in August, the project is now out to the employees. We're had kickoff meetings with them. We're gathering data based off surveys and coordinating in-person interviews to employees in all positions to help establish a baseline understanding of each position. At the same time, GovHR's team is going to market to comparable communities that were a table of which was shared in the packet. And I'm happy to talk about if the group wishes. And we'll be gathering all that data through the month of September and into October, where GovHR will present the city with draft information that we'll go through as a team and then present the final report back to the Common Council at its November meeting. From there, the organization will continue to work on implementation processes with officials and staff into the following year. So that's a quick summary of the compensation study and our overall timeline. I'm happy to go into more details if the group wishes. Otherwise, I can yield for questions.
Alderman Boucher.
Thank you for getting this kicked off and going. I think that this is a very necessary thing in today's employment world. Unfortunately,
Can we speak in the mic more?
Unfortunately, this is staggering off from our budget for next year. Are you able to get a ballpark range from GovHR as far as like what to anticipate at least for as we go to budget, what we should be looking at, for next year, also, to retain employees?
Sure. So GovHR will have some rough data available for us in October. The budget process is very early on, and as the budget team works to develop the budget, wages will remain a priority component. And as we work through both the process of the budget and comp study, we'll make sure that whatever data we have available from GovHR is considered. No matter what, we are most likely anticipating a phased approach with the compensation study results, even if we didn't have to switch vendors like we did it back in June. We'd still be looking at a multi-year approach to ease the city and employees into what needs to come next.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I have one. I noticed there's a ranking system. Are we going to, for the comparable communities, I assume we're going to look at the ones that rank a little higher more than the other ones? Is that thought process behind that?
Yeah, so all the communities that were included in the packet and that Excel table are ones that we would be looking to survey. We chose as a team to look at communities that we thought were most comparable, which we caught off at the 74 point mark and above. And we also added in 2 additional communities that we thought would help bring in the northern and southern portions of our side of the state that we compete with staff for, to make sure those are counted for as well. So there's a total of 20 communities on this list that we anticipate getting data from, and hopefully most, if not all, respond.
That's an excellent point. We may solicit many, but we might not get responses from all of them.
Yep, GovHR says of an organization our size, they typically survey 12 to 15. We're going a little above that to help ensure we have a good data set.
I think it's a good plan. Thank you. Alderman Strelchak.
Couple points that I brought up just prior to coming to tonight's meeting. Grafton's not included in the list of communities, and I think because they may be a little smaller than we are, but they're an Ozaukee County benchmark that we compare against in our other studies. When we're talking about police and fire, it'd be nice to have the benchmark here just to kind of understand where that fits. Also, just kind of a statement, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel completely here with this comp study. We ran one several years ago. I was a part of that, where we did revamp several of the positions as far as rankings and everything else. I think you came in either right at that point or were a part of that, if I remember correctly. And then we've given raises each year, so I think we're, to Alderman Bushy's standpoint, I don't think there's going to be any real big surprises that are going to come up with this. I think it's just, we're running this study as a benchmark to make sure that we're keeping up with other communities and making sure that we're comparable. The one confusing thing for me after the last study was we ended up with, the range and where you bring people in and then you kind of move them to the top end. I guess I'm looking for a couple things with this. A, that we're going to compare against what we did last time and understand what the differences are and why. So if the positions go up or down, I doubt they'll go down, but probably go up, in a couple things, and why that change was, recommended if it's more than just a couple percent. The other thing is just really understanding where to bring in people based on different talent and background. I think we had such a big range last time from a hiring standpoint that we offered a little higher, and then they were already at that mid to above median, so there was just kind of annual increases and not as many like, hey, you've really gotten up to speed and we can even things out, a little quicker for you type things. So I'm looking to have a better understanding as we're being asked those questions in finance and personnel, and as well as up here, as to just kind of how to provide input on that, because I have a range and I have a hunch, but I don't have as many intuitions as to what to recommend based on hiring as it comes out. So I'm kind of hoping there'll be a little of that info in there.
Yep, GovHR will look at those elements and have that as part of their recommendation to the city.
Great.
And they'll be here in person to present that information too.
Awesome.
As far as Grafton goes, they were just below the 74% or point total. If there's no objection from the group, I can go back to the consultant and ask them to be added to the list. It can't hurt to get another data point.
I'd appreciate that. And if we need to take one out to put one in, I'm open to that too. But, having Grafton in there, I think when we're looking at Ozaukee County communities, Grafton's got some new development and things like that, and a little more industry closer to the highway. I think we're getting a good baseline of a variety of different communities that are similar or slightly different than us, so that we can kind of understand what goes on there and maybe why wages might be one way or the other.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks.
Alderman Meyer.
For each one of these cities, they're going to be having a position breakdown with that, or is it going to be a general for all of those, let's say, for a position of one type?
we'll be sending out a survey to each community that will include a list of each of our positions. And then we'll look for that community to match their same position to that one. So for instance, if I'm the assistant administrator, I'll compare against their assistant administrator.
How much faith do you have in people returning the surveys to give information out that what they're paying their employees?
GovHR is pretty confident that we'll get a strong response. We're in the public sector, so all this is information we can get from other employers, and they'll help us hound if need be to get enough data back so we can have a solid study.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had to, we could data mine their annual budgets and probably get
That's
3/4 of it. So.
You also get, they're public, their salary are public, so you can always go
So-
for that.
We can get it ourselves.
Yeah, get them all mad and ask for open records requests.
Yeah,
We're sending
the
you-
journal,
So hopefully you don't have to go that far.
Why we ask nice first. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to move this along to quarterly department reports. We've theoretically only got 5 minutes left, but let's not rush through it if there's questions. So does anyone want to open with a question? We don't have to do these in order. We can, someone's got a question of fire, we can just hit fire, and then hopefully everyone else will ask all their questions. Does anyone have a question? I'll ask a question of the fire department. So I noticed in the report we've realized more calls than last year, year to date. Is that, we've got a long trend of accomplishing that feat year over year. Is this on par with what we expected, or maybe perhaps a little more?
It's on par with what we've done. Every year it seems it's about 100 more calls. This year might be slightly. Every year we go. Hello?
That's good.
Every year we go about 100 calls. This year it's going to trend a little higher than that, but it just keeps going up. And it's the population.
But that's what I recall. We're about 100 calls per year. We're 100 calls up in the first half of the year this year. Okay. That answers my question. We're getting a little more calls than even we expected. Alderman Schneider.
I have a question, but of Public Works, not of
Oh,
fire.
anyone else questions for fire?
Wasn't that also because of Thiensville?
The
call volume going up.
No, since we started this consolidation or merger July 1st, we've only gone there maybe 6 or 8 times. So that doesn't have a huge impact on what we're doing.
Alderman Giro.
You said population and aging population still, right?
Yes.
No other questions? I think for fire, thank you, Chief. Alderwoman Schneider, you had a question for, was it Public Works? Kristen, please come up.
I just had a quick question about lift station E. At one point we were talking about replacing that station, and I hadn't heard anything since, so I was just wondering if you could give us a quick update.
We are optimistic that we have identified a potential location, and we are working through the process with the property owner and hope to bring a more detailed update within the next month.
Oh, excellent. My other question is about trees. I noticed that we had removed 800 plus dead ash trees, but we had a greater number of just trees, 2,000 plus, and I'm wondering what was that about?
Now I'm making sure the numbers weren't reversed.
I think we've removed far more ash trees. Just some have been removed by the forestry department and some by just the regular public works crews.
Cool. And I'll confirm that those didn't get reversed.
Okay. It just seemed unusual.
Seems high.
Don't want to jeopardize our Tree City USA status.
Yeah, really.
But just generally speaking, how many, I don't know, I know that you've been progressing on the ash tree issue, but how many other kinds of trees are typically removed in a year in Mequon?
Well, we used to average about 500 trees removed, and that was before we had that, but that's also before we had a forestry division. So
Okay.
We've certainly been benefited by both.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Meyer.
Just real quick, and off the top of your head, what percentage are we at for ash trees now?
I think Mike just put it together for budget. I think we're still just at less than 50% of the total city-owned ash trees removed.
That's a shocking stat because we've been at that for a while, but that's good to know. Good question.
And unfortunately, we're getting to the more difficult ones to remove. So
Of course.
the timeline to remove the rest may be longer than what we've done for those removed thus far.
Any other questions for Works? Sounds like none. Thank you. Any other questions for the other departments that presented reports tonight? I had one for police department. It's a question I get asked occasionally, so I'll ask it in maybe a little more public manner. I know early in the year we had some problems with some auto thefts, but I understand that's largely died down as that group moved on. Is that still true?
So we did have early in January and February we had the thefts from vehicles. That was the higher item, and that has leveled off slightly. Auto thefts themselves, so the actual car, are trending a little bit up this year. So I would say we're about 2 more than where we were last year. We continue to work on those things, and the flock camera system, although it hasn't caught any of ours we catch them leaving on the camera system themselves, so we're able to get information and data from that. But it's also, I think we're up to 11 stolen recoveries that have driven through our flock camera system, so that's helped with a lot of other cases. So
people who have stolen cars elsewhere but then driven them into Mequon.
Correct.
That's probably a good thing to catch too, because they usually come here to create other problems.
Just as an example, on Monday morning, there was a flock alert on County Line in Swan, northbound, and we were able to find the vehicle in one of the subdivisions, and we chased the vehicle, and unfortunately we weren't able to catch it, but I have no doubt that it was probably there to commit another crime, so we likely prevented another auto theft just from that system there. So
it's good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions for the police department?
awesome.
Seeing none. Any other questions for other departments, or do we want to wrap this up? Alderman Parrish?
Not to put our city attorney on the spot, but could we have a monthly report next month for the just legal status updates?
You will, yes.
Thank you.
Hearing no more questions, next item on the agenda is future policy items for discussion. Anyone have any items they'd like to see brought before committee of the whole? If you don't have any now, you can always email or call me. With that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We will slide right into, I believe it's the water utility meeting that's up next. Is that correct?
Are we sewer or water next? Water.
Yep. It is the water utility meeting. So call the Mequon Municipal Water Utility Commission meeting of August 10th to order, and call the roll, please. Or we can let the record reflect that everyone that was here for the committee of the whole was also here for the start of this meeting. If we don't want to go through the formality, I'm fine with that. First up, approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next up, we have the 5-year contract extension for City Water LLC. So I'll let Kevin and or City Water take the lead on that.
Okay. I'll endorse the performance of City Water for a contract renewal of 5 years. They have a unique experience to the facilities for the Mequon water utility, and staff has worked seamlessly with City Water through budget process, in addition to operation maintenance and various capital improvement projects, including various inspections. Recently, I-43, Bunt Rock, and a number of site developments, and recommend moving forward with another 5-year extension on the City Water contract.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I have a question.
Alderwoman Schneider.
And this might be for City Water or for Kevin, whichever, but just because I know costs are going up, and you referenced in the documentation that staffing has had to increase as the City Water customer base has increased. And recently we've been shown a proposal for a further increase in customers outside of Mequon. And I still have some challenges in my mind, and I know there's some complicated variables, but I'm wondering how the increased customer base is reflected for the current customers in current terms of cost. And I understand that the extensions are typically development funded, so that it isn't an upfront cost, but there are other costs probably with increased personnel, and particularly with increased maintenance for all the kinds of things that you do under the surface, so to speak, that keep the system running. And do you have any formula in your mind or something that references how much the costs go up with increasing customer base, or go down for that matter, because you're spreading it among increased base?
Can you hear me? Is this on, or do I have to hold this?
You're good. I think maybe just pull it a couple inches closer. It's pickup's not that great.
Okay. So the increase in the customers, obviously, the more customers you have, the more miles of water main, more services that you have, and really that's what the operations standpoint, from operating the system, it's the number of valves you need to turn on an annual basis and the number of hydrants. But overall, the increases that we've had, we're at a point with the number of employees where we don't really have a huge, increase in our demand to do that. The increase that we had in our FTEs back in 2018, 2019 was due to the meter swap, which we get paid for on a per meter basis. So we increased our FTEs to handle that program. So it was really due to a new task that we picked up that were being paid on a piecemeal basis. So it really, I guess, in looking at this, that was paid for in another way. So our FTEs have been relatively flat. And what we do to kind of help offset, the added cost is we'll utilize summer students, college kids that will come in the summertime that we have do, I guess, more of the mundane tasks of flushing hydrants and, things that, you can hire a summer kid at a much lower price and have them, turn valves and flush hydrants and paint hydrants and things of that nature. And I can have the operators focus on, customer service calls, meter complaints, things that, I need someone who understands a water system to better handle. So we've been managing it that way. I don't see us needing to, add additional staff due to increase, of population that we're serving for a while, I would think.
Thank you. Do you see any particular challenges ahead for the water utility?
The challenges we run into are kind of regulatory based. You know, PFAS is something that the DNR has put on their radar, and so we'll end up getting into testing to see if that's, you know, a contaminant that we need to deal with, and then that gets into working with Milwaukee Waterworks and North Shore Water Commission to make sure that we adequately remove any of that so that the customers are protected.
Thank you.
Alderman Parrish.
Thanks to Kevin for the overview and for staff recommendations to renew the city water contract. For what it's worth, I've also spoken to a number of staff over the last year as it relates to city water, and I do believe they all view you as part of the team, really a strategic partner. It would be my impression that to switch horses at this point would be a mistake. You're a valuable member of the team, and I do believe you have our most important resource at heart. So as far as comments, and perhaps Alderman Meyer is going to love this one as it relates to cars. Did I see that we provide the vehicles to?
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking, you know, we're kind of moving toward testing out the whole lease versus own thing, and it also seems odd to me that we're providing vehicles to a third party, and I don't know how that works with liability if something happens and what have you. So I want to approve the contract, but if there was a model later on that we should consider, maybe with your other municipalities, you guys are providing your own vehicles, or you're providing vehicles, no?
There's only one account that we provide vehicle, or that we're providing a vehicle for, and that's Milwaukee Regional Medical Center, so it's a private campus. All the municipalities typically provide the vehicle because then I don't have to put a markup on it. It's, you know, that way it's just direct cost that the city provides.
And I do just maybe want to add that the utility owns the vehicles. So if for some reason we ever decided to change staff or hire in-house staff, the utility retains the ownership of that vehicle and would need to use it for any staff that otherwise operates and maintains the utility.
Okay. So it's essentially like we have a contract employee using our vehicle.
Correct. And if we had in-house staff, it would be the same. And they're required to follow all of the same licensing protocols that our own staff is to utilize city-owned vehicles.
Thank you.
Alderman Meyer.
So the reoccurring question that I've had practically, you know, for a few years, and the previous mayor had the same question. At what point, and not that it becomes self-sustaining because it won't do that, but at what point do we stop expanding except for, let's say, a subdivision that we have that gets added to it? We put in the bill for the Mont water system, you know, then Wisconsin took it over, you know, and then we formed our own because of the fact that it was going to be less expensive for the original people that were on the water system if we went and had our own. Be interesting to see right now where those people's bills were at that time, what it was reduced, and then where is it at now? Because as we're adding more staff to it, and as we take on more individuals, those initial process that we had to keep that water bill low for those individuals now may be past what even that savings was supposed to be at that time for them. And it's just because of the fact that we've gotten bigger, we've added more to it, taken on other municipalities that cost them to probably pay more than what they would have, even though with adjustments yearly for costs on the water and things of that nature. It'd be interesting to see where those people would be at now or are at now compared to what we told them was going to be cheaper for them.
Actually, the water commission, you guys have done a really good job in maintaining really flat rates. The water utility has gone in for several purchased water adjustments where our suppliers raise their rates, so we pass that cost along to the consumer. But other than that, we've only had one rate increase over the course of the last 11 years. You know, like a actual gone in for a full rate increase. So the rates have been very stable, you know, over the time frame that Mequon has owned the water utility. And the growth aspect, I understand your question, your concern there. it's been interesting though, when we first started the water utility back, in 2009 when I first got started, and we had the bond covenant, so we had to be very careful about, we could not borrow based off of the referendum that we passed. We couldn't borrow money from the city, and we had this bond covenant that we had to maintain a certain percentage of money in hand. Money was very tight in the very beginning, but as we grew, subdivisions, adding customers, in Bayside, we added that 2015 project that was 556 customers. Each one of those customers brings with it about a 6% rate of return. That's a regulated rate of return. And so as you added those customers, we now have gotten to a point where the utility is actually doing financially very well. And so it's actually helping the utility by adding those customers.
But at some point it ends.
In addition to your question, Commissioner Meyer, about expansion, the next item on the agenda regarding the water utility master plan and the scope of that master plan and evaluating what the long-term like key principles are, I think can be better defined in that discussion. Yeah. Compared to the item at hand for the renewal of the contract.
Yeah, we're kind of 1 foot in one discussion, one in the other. I mean, it's a comment and question's been out there for a while. I think if we look in the packet on page 27 of the packet, it shows city water's staffing, and between 2011 and 2018, it was flat as Kansas. So you had 2.5 FTEs of regular employees and 2 of summer help. It only went up a half FTE in 2018, 2019, like you'd alluded to.
Yeah.
In that time, we've added a couple of thousand customers, so it doesn't appear to be growing linearly with the amount of customers.
And the half FTE that we had in 2018 was because we were 20 years old as a utility, and we had to do about 300 meter swaps a year. So we needed someone to go out and do the meter swaps. So that was the reason for the adder.
Are you still looking for a motion?
Was this? Oh, yep. This is for approval. So yes, motion in a second.
I move to approve the contract for the water utility for the next 5 years.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending this on to the council? This gets approved here. Okay, then a roll call then.
Commissioner Newbern?
Aye.
Commissioner Bushy?
Aye.
Commissioner Garrell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hansfer?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider?
Aye.
Commissioner Sterlchek?
Aye.
Good. The ayes have it. That motion passes. Next, we have the similar item, but slightly different. The water utility master plan update, scope of services.
While I will introduce, I'm already going to recommend an amendment to my own language. Under Task 5, I'd like to ask the Commission's permission to add some additional definition to ideally get to what Commissioner Meyer was just speaking to, so we can add a rate analysis that pulls together the number of customers, the purchase water cost, and the rate of return. So we can and the number of customers that are done under task 1. So we can look at that more to what you were saying about the history over time as to what the rates have been against the number of customers.
That adequately scratch the itch, Commissioner Meyer? Does that adequately scratch the itch?
Yeah.
Okay. And do we need to make, that's a staff recommendation, we just need a friendly amendment?
Well, you don't have a motion yet, so certainly if you just had a motion, you could just say we move to include.
So whoever leads with a motion, I recommend adding that in.
And while this was brought forward, the The only thing we actually need approval of would be to issue directly to city water. The scope itself, we would have issued at a staff level and then brought the contract back. And while we're certainly welcoming discussion on the content, if the commission has any feedback, the request that we're seeking action on is to exclusively issue the water master plan to city water.
Understood. Okay, may still get a couple comments though.
Yeah.
Alderman Strelchak. I mean Commissioner Strelchak, sorry.
Either way.
Wrong meeting.
Yeah, well, it still works. My question for you is, you know, as we're doing the analysis, it didn't sound like what you were saying that your amendment was like a full analysis of like, we've been asked to make decisions on, do we want to include other communities, you know, the pro forma, where like some benchmark items are, where we need other staff. That's the tool that I would like to ask for now to get on the radar, either for discussion as to what that means and what that costs, or how to give us a better tool so that we're not, oh, it sounds like a good idea, we'll approve that, and, you know, go on what everyone's saying, that the costs won't go up. I want to make sure that I'm making very educated decisions on behalf of the constituency that's using the water.
Correct, but that's why we created the water connection policy. So this master plan would be to serve the existing water user service area. So that's what's already been approved by this commission, and everybody within that water user service area could be served under what our current roles and policies are. So that's the focus of this scope of services, is on that existing water user service area. We will continue, we've heard you loud and clear, which is why we created the water connection policy that requires that pro forma and analysis anytime that we would consider expanding that water user service area.
I'm looking for a broader pro forma, not just as it comes to us one by one. I'm looking at understanding where our strategic analysis would come in long term. Like, let's say we've got 1,000, you know, we have capability for 1,000 or 2,000 if it's within the community, or just barely without. You know, we're being asked to make decisions on expanding the utility, so I want to know more of what that means long term.
But this is not requesting you to consider expansion of the utility. This is just the master planning for our existing user service area.
Okay. But I'm looking to have that analysis at some point, so if I could just bring that up as a future discussion item.
But the concern is based on what? I mean, unfortunately, it's difficult to otherwise determine what we would base that on. We can do so in reaction to a specific application, like the Village of River Hills. We're actually going through that pro forma right now, where we're requiring them to define what the amendment to the water user service area would be, to otherwise go through that pro forma to understand what the impact would be financially on the utility, so that we can provide all of that information before you make your decision.
So I think the goal of this, there's two questions that keep on coming up. When do we run out of water?
That's what this will answer.
This will answer, and that feeds into the other discussion. Should we expand the boundary? Those kind of have to be taken case by case, because we have no idea who will come forward.
So this will
or what they'll propose, but this will at least give us the background if we've got capacity for 2,000 more residential equivalent units, and we'll have some sort of idea of how much we could add within our existing boundary.
Correct.
There's likely to be some excess that we can decide what to do with when the projects come forward.
Right.
So I think this is related, but it's not the same. I think that's kind of what staff's trying to indicate. And then the other question that keeps on coming up is, when do we get too big? You know, so our costs expand greater than our user base.
And the goal of this
that'll also be answered here with that amendment you put in there.
The goal of this will be to provide the basis for you to make those decisions moving forward. I hope you all might understand, as utilities owner and operators, I'm not sure we ever want to stop growing the utility. So we would need to understand what those constraints and parameters are. And we're trying to get good data to be able to formulate that. Whether that's the idea of based on we don't want to add so many customers that rates have to increase, or whether that's that we don't want to increase the number of customers such that we need to add additional staff. But as we've otherwise told you, that also depends on the type of customer that's being added, because those that we would otherwise consider infill development that are on main not using actually are to an extreme benefit to all existing water utility users, and in a way help bring their costs down because it's more customers on the exact same infrastructure that already exists.
Are there any further questions about I think we're just asking staff to be able to award this directly to city water rather than entertaining third parties, which they'd probably spend so much time asking city water questions, it would be like paying for it twice. But at least that's my impression. Are there any other comments on are there any concerns awarding directly to city water? I don't particularly have any. I sort of assumed it would be within the constraints of their normal 5-year approval we want to update the water master plan every 5 years and we're doing 5-year extensions. You could have made it all in one.
And we actually did with the first one, but we wanted to stay true to the process and at least ask. We would otherwise bring the amount forward. There was not money budgeted in 2022, so we'll get the proposal from City Water and either use that as a part of the establishment of the fiscal year 2023 budget for the utility, or to the extent there may be an opportunity to leverage some funds remaining in 2022, we'll bring that forward as a part of the award to request that of the commission.
So anyone have any concerns? Show of hands, who has no concerns about awarding directly to city water? Okay. So we're good there. Any further comments on the content of the scope of services, which
Yes.
Parrish,
Well,
Commissioner Parrish.
just to clarify, I mean, we say just awarding it to city water. This is an RFP for them to provide us
Correct.
a cost that would be reasonable, after which we will.
You just won't be asking for costs from other firms.
Just clarifying. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I was
But they're not going to respond until I update it for Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
Okay, since this is quasi-monetary, I'll ask for a roll call vote on this as well. Is there a motion and a second? No one's made a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. And does the motion also include the staff recommendation for the amendment? Okay, motion as amended. And a second to the same.
Second.
Okay. Now the roll call vote.
Commissioner Newburn,
Aye.
Commissioner Bushy,
Aye.
Commissioner Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Hansher,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish,
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider,
Aye.
and Commissioner Strelichek.
You're getting it. Aye. It's a quiz later.
That motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have adjourned as the Water Commission. We will now convene as the Sewer Utility District Commission. Please let the record show that everyone that was here before is still here now. First up, approval of the meeting minutes from June 14th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First up, Resolution 3973, a resolution approving a contract for the preparation of bid documents for sewer lateral repair at the Ranch Road Lift Station E area to R.A. Smith of Brookfield in the amount of $48,300.
Move approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. We are recommending this to the council, so hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That resolution is recommended to the council. Next up, Resolution 3974, a resolution adopting an amended water quality management plan. Are there any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Now any questions or comments? Do we need a short primer from staff, or are we all good? Seeing thumbs up.
Maybe Deputy Director Driscoll could provide a quick overview of the process that's going to be followed after tonight, pending or assuming the commission approves this resolution as proposed.
Yes, thank you, Administrator Jones. The city received correspondence from the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission regarding the proposed boundary amendment to the sanitary sewer service area, and a public hearing is scheduled for August 29th. And then that item will be taken up again by the Common Council in advance of the quarterly meeting by the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission on September 14th. And pending that approval, the boundary amendment to the sanitary sewer service area would go to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, in addition to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for approvals. And subsequent to that, the developer would have that 89-acre parcel added into the sanitary sewer service area, and there's 2 additional parcels that are in negotiations for agreements to have sanitary sewer be made available for connection.
So while the resolution on tonight's commission agenda will move forward if approved by the commissioners here this evening, it is not on the Common Council agenda for this evening due to public hearing notice requirements, which we were not able to meet in advance of this evening. So, as was communicated out to members of the council yesterday, we have a special committee of the whole budget meeting scheduled for Monday, August 29th, which will be starting at 6 p.m. here in these chambers. And once we move through the workshop meeting, we'll have a short special Common Council meeting to conduct the necessary public hearing and to allow the council to formally approve the recommendation that we're anticipating from the commission here tonight.
And if we don't do that, the whole proposal slides 3 months because of Sewer PAC's quarterly meetings.
Correct. We're merely attempting to keep things on track and moving forward.
Commissioner Schneider.
Just a quick question. Is it necessary to know whether these other parcels want to be in the sewer district before we move forward on that, or can we propose it even not knowing the exact boundary?
Yes, the property owners have indicated interest in being in the sanitary sewer service area, and the developer agreement to make sanitary sewer available to those property owners is part of the process that they're looking for. And we have an agreement document that's been transmitted to the respective property owners so that we can include them or they can decline if they're not satisfied.
I just was wondering if that would hold it up if the exact boundary changed, but I guess it's already organized as such.
Right, because of the process, we included them as opposed to having to restart the process by adding them in. So they're included now, and if they choose to withdraw, then they're allowed to do so up through the public hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Commissioner Meyer.
One quick question. How much of and I can't read it on the map, how much of the area that's requesting for extension is in the 5-acre zoned area? Is there any of it?
The 5-acre zoned area.
It is currently zoned 5 acres?
There's 2 parcels that are outside of the 89 acres that was just rezoned. And I believe it's about over 1.5 and a little over 2 acres for each of those 2 parcels.
Are there any further questions, or shall we vote on it? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a motion in a second. Yeah, we did. Okay. That resolution It's recommended onto the council, but we won't take it up till next month, or no, later this month.
Our special meeting.
Next up, we have Resolution 3972, a resolution approving a quitclaim deed, a temporary construction easement, and a statement of non-reimbursement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation in connection with the I-43 expansion project. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? It's pretty straightforward. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Should ask. That resolution is recommended onto the council. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. And now we will get to our regularly scheduled common council meeting. Only 5 minutes late. That's not too bad. I'd like to call the common council meeting for Wednesday, August 10th to order. First, we got the Pledge of Allegiance first, so we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll do a roll call.
Alderman Strelchuk?
Here.
Alderman Bushy?
Here.
Alderman Meyer?
Here.
Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Garrow?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Schneider?
Here.
And
Here. First off, we have a couple of public hearings. First is for ordinance 2022-1625, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to maintenance responsibilities and green infrastructure requirements in connection with the city's certification of stormwater facilities. This was recommended by the Planning Commission on June 27th, and the first reading was at the Common Council meeting of July 12th. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
Move to go into public.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
We're in public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item present? Seeing
Close
none.
public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close. All those in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are out of public hearing. We will now immediately take this item up for consideration. Is there a motion?
Move the public hearing.
Oh, we're going to vote on this item
Oh,
before
we're
we go
gonna
into the
vote.
next one. Is there a motion to approve this
Move to
ordinance?
approve.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions for staff? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Brings us to our second public hearing, ordinance 2022-1626, ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code, allowing for event planning services with facilities as a permitted use within the town center zoning district. This was recommended by the Planning Commission June 27th. First reading was last month at Common Council meeting on July 12th. Is there a
I'll move
motion?
in public.
Motion to go into public
Second.
hearing? Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're out of public hearing. Would entertain a motion at this time for approving this item.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That ordinance is approved as well. Next, we're on to public appearances or personal appearances and public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on an agenda item, you may be heard when that item is considered later in the meeting. Please speak into the microphone at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in public comment section? Seeing none, we'll move on to public officials reports. I have one one lowly item. I'd like to invite everyone watching and hopefully everyone they talk to attend the Taste of Mequon on Saturday, September 10th. It's right out here in front of City Hall from noon to 9, and there's good food, even better music, I've been told, and lots of fun and fellowship and community to be had. It's one of my favorite days of the year, being a Mequon citizen, so I hope to see you all there. I will probably be there all day, and I know my wife probably will as well, because she's on the committee that helps put it all together, so hope to see you there. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a couple of quick updates this evening. Recently, the city learned of the passing of former city administrator Harry Coleman earlier this summer. Mr. Coleman served as the city administrator here in Mequon from 1993 to 1998, and among his many accomplishments were the expansion of City Hall south towards the parking lot and adjacent to Mequon Town Center 1. After retiring, Mr. Coleman continued to live here in Mequon and also served on our Economic Development Board between the years 2013 and 2016. He was the beloved husband of his wife Bettina for 57 years and the loving father of his 3 children, Eric, Natalie, and Gretchen. Harry is further survived by several grandchildren as well as many nieces and nephews. The city obviously extends its gratitude to former City Administrator Harry Coleman for his many years of service to the community and its heartfelt condolences to his family in the wake of his recent passing. 2 other quick items. There will be a community blood drive here in Mequon City Hall on Friday, August 26th. As is typically the case during the summer months, blood supplies tend to run low, and anyone looking to donate can do so between the hours of 7 a.m. and noon. There's a link on the city website for any donors who are interested in registering. And lastly, due to some fortuitous developments on the staffing front at the Mequon Community Pool, we'll be staying open a little longer this year in comparison to past years. And the pool will actually remain open through late August, Saturday, August 27th to be exact. The pool will remain open until August 27th from 12 to 7 on weekdays and from 11 to 7 on weekends. So we're going to be open for another week here this summer.
Excellent. Thank you for that report. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have 10 sets of meeting minutes from various committees and commissions, and 1 resolution, Resolution 3969, a resolution approving a second amendment to the development agreement for Arteza multifamily residential development located at 1130 North Buntrock Avenue, transferring ownership from Dermond Properties LLC to Milwaukee Dermond LLC. This was recommended earlier this evening by Finance and Personnel. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda or maybe remove an item if they want to take it up separately?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as a whole. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Next, we have ordinance first readings. These will not be acted upon tonight unless there's a suspension of the rules approved by a 2/3 vote of the council. We just have one item. It's ordinance 2022-1628, an ordinance amending chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code to rezone the property located at 10766 Torrey Drive from R3 single family residential to R3 with planned unit development to allow for an 11-lot cluster subdivision. This was recommended by the Planning Commission in July, and this is a first reading. That brings us to ordinances. Ordinance 2022-1627, an ordinance repealing and recreating Section 2-63 Prin D of the Mequon Municipal Code relating to mayoral and aldermanic vacancies. This was recommended by the Public Welfare Committee on July 12th. This first reading was the Common Council that same night. Are there any questions or a motion? Or maybe the city attorney would give us a brief overview of this item?
Sure. This is a reflection of kind of the discussion that we had leading up to the mayor's election as mayor and the vacancy that he left behind. Just clarifying our code so that it matches the state code. There was one proposed change at committee level last month that was not reflected in the packet at the council meeting, which was just to clarify that the standard rules of succession will continue to apply until a vacancy is filled. So that was the recommendation of the committee, and that is what is in the packet this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the proposed ordinance change?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That ordinance is approved. Now we have resolutions. Resolution 3966, a resolution authorizing execution of a 5-year lease agreement for printer and copier services with Office Technology Group of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the estimated amount of $68,340. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions for staff? Hearing none, please call the roll on this item.
Alderman Strelchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Bushy,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
That resolution is approved. Next, we have Resolution 3970, a resolution awarding contracts for the replacement of exterior doors at City Hall to Quality Door and Hardware LLC in the amount of $89,050, and for access upgrades to Complex Security Solutions of New Berlin in the amount of $20,077. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
The Public Works approved it at 3-0.
Thank you. So this was approved by the committee. Good to know.
Move approval.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. We have a question from Alderman Boucher.
Just actually a point of clarification. I talked to the city administrator this morning, and he said that these doors, that should the front of the building become wheelchair accessible, that they will work in that fashion with being able to push a button, that they wouldn't have to get different doors.
Oh, so handicap accessibility is one of the upgrades, or no?
We want to be careful. They will have automated door entry.
Okay.
They will not be ADA accessible. Our entrances are not ADA accessible. So it's not because of the doors, but they will have the automated door entry.
Because we would need other improvements for
Correct.
ramps and such.
So the doors are not the prohibition to that. It's the
We're making a
entrances.
step closer to that.
Yes.
Okay. A good item to do and get out of the way while we're replacing the doors, but we won't be fully ADA compliant yet. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions? We have a motion and a second, correct? Any other questions for staff? If not, please call the roll.
Alderman Bushy,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk.
That resolution passes. Next, we have Resolution 3971, a resolution approving amendments to the City of Mequon's 2022 fee schedule related to financial guarantees for stormwater facilities and green infrastructure projects. This also has a recommendation forthcoming from Public Works. Public Works approved it at 3-0. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That resolution passes as well. There were no opposed votes, right? Just checking. Sounded pretty unanimous. Resolution 3972, a resolution approving a quitclaim deed for a temporary construction easement and a statement of non-reimbursement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation in connection with the I-43 freeway expansion project. Recommendation forthcoming from the Sewer Utility District. We approved this.
Move
The Sewer
approval.
Committee earlier tonight.
Move
Motion
approval.
and a second from.
Sorry to interrupt you too.
That's all right. I was tripping over the last sentence there. Motion and a second from Alderman Parrish and Alderwoman Schneider. Any further comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution passes as well. Last resolution, a resolution approving, resolution 3973, a resolution approving a contract for the preparation of bid documents for sewer lateral repair work in the Ranch Road Lift Station E area to R.A. Smith of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount of $48,300. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those, well, no, we need to take a roll call. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Garrow.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Stralchak.
Aye.
And Alderman Bushy.
Resolution passes. We have no specified unfinished business, no specified new business. We do have 3 potential closed session items. So I'll do my best to get these out there. The first is for legal services, RFP. Common Council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, Prin 1, Prin C, for the purposes of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public official over which the governmental body has jurisdiction. And Statute 18.80 or 19.85, Prin 1, Prin E, for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investment of public funds, or conducting other specified business, whenever collective, competitive, or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session as deemed appropriate. Is there a motion to go into closed session for this item?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Roll call? Oh, that's right. Roll call, sorry.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Garrow.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Stralchak.
Aye.
Alderman Bushy.
Aye.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Mayor Nervin.
Aye. So that potential closed session item is approved as a closed session item. We'll go to the second and third ones respectively. The second item is a potential claim against the Mequon Police Department. A common council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, Prin 1, Prin G, for the purposes of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation which is or likely to become involved, and then reconvene into open session to take such action as deemed appropriate. Is there a motion to go into closed session for this item?
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Garrow.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Stralchak.
Aye.
Alderman Bushy.
Aye.
Alderman
Aye.
Meyer. Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Mayor Nervin.
Aye. And lastly, Izaki County Communication Services Agreement. The Common Council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, Prin 1, Prin E, for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as deemed appropriate. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Stralchak.
Aye.
Alderman Bushy.
Aye.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Garrow.
Aye.
Mayor Nervin.
Aye. Do we anticipate coming back, or we do not anticipate coming back, so that'll effectively end the open meeting portion. We can come back and adjourn, but there'll be no one here to watch it. Thank you.